Hello, love. Oh my goodness. So this is podcast episode 1 with Kyanne Kerbel. Kerbel? How do I repeat on
Kerbel or Kerbel?
Kerbel?
Kerbel's fine as well.
Good Lord. And Kyanne. And I am super excited. This is episode 1 of Floating on a Cloud. Spirit gave me the name Floating on a Cloud. It's that feeling that we get when we are connected with spirit. And so the whole point of this podcast that people have been asking me to start hosting and talking about for over 3 years now. And finally, it feels like now's the right time. So this is all the intention of this podcast and our conversations and the conversations I'm going to have with several hundred guests is normalizing listening to your divine guidance and how you can incorporate that into everyday living. It's not just for us spiritual woo-woo peeps, but for everyone to make their life easy, effortless, and enjoyable. So let's chat.
I love it. I love it.
Kyanne is a self-love advocate, mama, Ayurvedic bodywork practitioner, forest dweller, trailblazer, lover of the moon and the Midwest.
Yes. Yes.
You're residing in Iowa, yes?
I am. So roots are Illinois, and then I have bloomed here in Iowa. So I'm connected to both, but I also love to travel. And so when I do, I stay home. I stay in my little bubble and I shop locally and I support local businesses and I stay in Airbnbs and support entrepreneurs that way. And so that's where my heart is for sure.
Awesome. Have you had a transformation experience in your life that was brought about by listening to your divine guidance?
Multiple experiences with that, because I'm always learning and I'm willing to fail and I'm willing to scrape my knees and then learn again from myself. Mm-hmm. And so I think part of my life path is that everybody's very tenacious. They think they figured their career out from the very beginning. And for me, I started in collections in the corporate world, following the almighty dollar. Mm-hmm. And then I realized it's not the 30-day work or 9-to-5 work week every single time. Sometimes I really have to make sure I fill my cup up. And so when I got into the point of burnout, it really was, okay, what can I do? How do I listen to myself and how do I show up more authentic? Originally, it was just to keep the grind going. And then I realized, I'm like churning here. I'm really pushing it and it's not really me. And so I did a whole shift. I went from corporate world, 6-figure salary to humbling myself and going to school to be a massage therapist. That was my calling. And that's where it all started and all rooted in Chicago is the new school for massage, bodywork, and healing. How do I tap into my own wellness and healing? And how do I open myself to be of service to others?
Mm-hmm. Now, what were those nudges that you got while you were still in corporate to explore more of who you are?
Exhaustion was my nudges. I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. And so in corporate world, you have the first of the month, and then you got to close everything out by the 30th. And I would journal at night, or I would have the intention to journal and be too exhausted to do it. But when I would write it down, there was a lot of communication that I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled. My bank account was very happy and fulfilled, but feeling that wholeness and feeling like, okay, what I'm putting out into the world has tremendous value. And I feel like my cup is full and I have enough to give to myself and overflow to others. There was a huge lack there. I didn't even know what that was. And then what eventually happened was I had this accumulation of journals that had the same exact theme going on. Yay, awesome month, great vacation. But once the vacation was over, I'm back in the grind. And so what am I going to do about it? After a couple of years had passed, I had this memoir of sorts of all these accomplishments, but not that much worth when I'm talking about self-worth and filling myself up and knowing I've got a purpose and a reason behind it.
Mm-hmm. are you able to, so so how do you receive those nudges? Has it always been an emotion such as exhaustion, or has it evolved, or what did it feel like? I mean, besides the exhaustion, I mean, did you get like tingly? I
Yeah.
mean,
So I am going to get really real because we're in the winter season. And so for me, like we're talking maybe 15 years ago, I'd convinced myself that winter brought on like seasonal depression. So if I was in a funk, this was sad. Like I was seasonally depressed. And then what happened as I started doing my education in Ayurvedic wellness and living in alignment with the seasons, I realized winter is actually a time to retreat and to give myself the grace with retreating and looking inward and listening to myself. So where I had been conditioned or I had convinced myself that this is just depression and I'm mopey and I just don't want to go anywhere and I want to live in sweatpants, I had turned to realize, like through journaling, no, this is just part of the process of like sitting by the fire and getting cozy and being quiet and still and allowing myself the opportunity to listen. So I changed the dynamic of thinking. It's not necessarily depression. It's just like that blank white snow, that clear slate. And what do I want to do with all this creative energy when I get still and I get quiet?
Yeah. And it's so interesting. You've brought up journaling a few times, that that's kind of how you receive. Like it might be an emotion, but then your aha moments, I think from what I'm hearing, is coming from the journaling. What I want to point out for those who are listening and watching is that it can be that easy. It's just writing out your thoughts or the first thoughts that come to you, or just writing in general, like you're journaling. So many things, I think some people think that listening to that inner wisdom, those nudges, your intuition, divine guidance is this like far out, holy crap thing. But it's just like paying attention to how you're feeling, writing out, looking at, okay, this is what I've been writing for 3 years now, and there's a pattern. What's really going on? And some introspection of things. I also think people have a mindset that this like shadow work can be like super difficult, and oh my God, who am I really, and all my faults. But it could be just as simple as journaling of what you're sharing. How did you know the difference between just those like subtle nudges and something that was more profound, such as I need to change my entire life around?
I would say the repetition. So following the breadcrumbs is that, okay, I've got this ping that it may be time to transition, or I'm not feeling fulfilled, or I have creative energy to do something different or to learn and study. And so it might just be a feeling one day, but really tuning into myself and knowing that it keeps coming up. So I need to go seek this, feel it out, and know exactly what it is. For me, it started with journaling. So it was picking up the pencil and writing things out. And it literally was that action. And then what I found, because I'm a giver at heart, was that I wanted to be able to hold space. And I say that because I'm so tangible. So a lot of my intuition and my truth comes through touch. So whether it's hands-on with a client, and then I'm feeling things, feeling energies, feeling emotions, feeling different vibrations, or just sitting with myself and like a cup of hot tea and like having that in my hands and feeling it warm and feeling that like sense of comfort and everything's okay, and slow down and sip it slowly. So that is divine guidance for me, that I might be hustling and paying bills and getting things done. But then when I pick up that cup of tea, so simple, I can really feel my breath pattern change, and I'm calm, and I'll give myself a moment of stillness and step away from the anxiety and away from the rush, and then just like settle in. And so those small little things turned into something very big because I was willing to follow each ping along the way.
I just had a conversation with a good friend about that Spirit was showing me as we were talking. It was like she was having these like small, big, small, big, small, big. And like, I kept seeing like this repetitive pattern, which I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but like, that's what I kept seeing for her. And I was like, are you following those little nudges? And she's like, well, no, because they're just thoughts. And I'm like, but what if your divine guidance is just thoughts? Like, what if it's just that easy? What if God, source, creator, spirit, whatever, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is just giving you those little, like you're saying, little breadcrumbs, and they're coming out as just thoughts. And then all of a sudden, that I think is one of the most popular questions for people to ask me is, how do you know the difference between a thought that you're thinking and a thought that you're receiving? What would be how have you distinguished that?
Well, I'll use the same example because Kyanne, business focused, very work minded, is going to be like, I have to get this done. I have a specific deadline, I have a specific goal, and yes, I'll hold myself accountable for it, but how necessary is it for me to get it done within that box that I've created for myself? If I'm fighting and I'm going against the grain and it feels icky and I don't have patience and I'm just frustrated with life, then I'm pushing and I'm forcing, and it's not real and it's not authentic. And so for me, is what flows and what feels good? Can I get this done later? And if I allow myself permission to get distracted or listen to my intuition or listen to spirit, then I might get so many more waves of opportunity, experience, epiphany, different systems, different creative ways to do things that I would never have allowed myself to have before because I was forcing it. It was not true to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm really curious. When I reached out to you, you said you were having some sort of epiphany and these waves because I think you were allowing. Do you want to share anything about that?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go try to get a timeline here. I think for the last 2 years, I've worked with like essential oils and herbs and different medicinal oils. And so for me, it's something that I would pick up for a season or pick up for a month, and then life would happen and it would fall off track. And so I would have a lot of energy and passion in the very beginning of my project. Okay, these are the oils for the season that I want to create. These are the candles that I want to create. And then life would take me off course. Mm-hmm. And so I would put things to the side and I would like compartmentalize a lot of different passion projects that I had for myself. What's happened more recently is I had the winter season come, which I just have discussed. Like that used to be a time where I just kind of mope around the house. And I was going through boxes and I was pulling out old books, and then that wave of just energy and anticipation came over me because I was ready. I was 100% sure that my time was now. And so I had gathered all these small components and I was able to piece it all together right here and now. So I was seeding. That's exactly what I was doing. I was seeding over time, and I was wanting it then when I planted the seed, but it wasn't the correct time. So what happened was I had this wave of creativity. It called me to find my books. It took me back to my old passion projects, and I was like, oh, all these little seeds I've planted over the years were preparing me for this moment. And I was fully aware that my time was now. So it wasn't, I needed to gather additional materials. I had the glass jars, I have the candle wicks, I have the aromatherapy. My time to create was now. And so it's just really sitting with it and not trying to force something, but be fully aware that it's going to happen when it feels right. And so I was getting the vibration that the time is now. And guess what, girl? You have everything and you're fully prepared. So it's just a matter of rolling through it and rolling it out.
I'm part of FemCity, but I'm part of the global FemCity, and Violet, the founder, asked me to be part of a panel of spiritual peeps talking about what the F happened in 2020 and from a spiritual standpoint, and then how do we shift into 2021 and what does 2021 bring? I am not a predictor of the future. Like that's not my jam. But since I know that I can have a conversation with spirit, I just ask, like, what does 2021 represent as a collective whole? And it said, spirit was sharing, elevate, integrate, elevate, integrate. It's almost like stair steps. And what you're saying is you're integrating. And that's what I was like, you elevated your thought, you elevated your vibration to some, and it was brought to you to integrate what all was being brought. And so I just love that. And I just did that. Spirit asked me, like, right before we jumped on this, Spirit's like, hey, sit with us for 15 minutes, set your timer, and we have some information for you. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I just sat, and it worked backwards throughout my week, because my weeks have been a little hectic and I felt drained. And I don't want that, because this is my jam, like podcasting, interviews, one-on-one work, group work, listening to my divine guidance, teaching other. I mean, this is everything that has been placed in front of me is what I like, is literally why I'm here. And so Spirit gave me like an outline of February, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, and worked backwards. And then Spirit's like, can you please voice record? Because I'm audible. So when I listen to divine guidance. And so I learn best audibly. So that's why I'm always so curious on how others receive information. So what you're sharing is a touch, a feel, like a feeling, an emotion, or actual touching brings you to that. Did you mention, well, writing would also be touching, visual? So you're like, it seems like a very like tactile. Is that how I say that? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
My English sucks. I always say to my husband that my first language is spirit. So English is like, and I only speak English. Like I should know it, but it's like the words don't come. I feel the emotion first. So
I understand very well.
So yeah, so just to wrap up my own thought was that Spirit was like, integrate everything that we have shared with you, or in regards to relationships, financial, spiritual, and home. And so I made a voice recording that vision casted for 2021. And what was so cool is just what you're saying about everything in the past has brought you to this moment, and it's now. That's how I was feeling just moments before we hopped on the call. Is like, we vision cast. And I think many of us think when we set goals or cast our vision or desires, it's going to take a long time. But what if there is actually here and we already are? And so everything that you had been prepared and had already been planting those seeds and gathering, now you already have everything. And that's what I feel like 2021 is about, is again, integrating all the things that you already know. And that's really what divine guidance is things that have always been inside you. It's just setting it free, whether it be through a not so fun experience of feeling exhausted for X amount of years or whatnot. It usually, for me and those that I have worked with, it is the contrast of what we don't want. It keeps pushing at us more and more, and finally to a breaking point that we're like, all right, we surrender, we let go. Something has to give.
Beautiful.
Any final advice that you would like to give the listeners, watchers, connectors, so they may experience more floating on a cloud moments?
Absolutely. So you tapped into so much. I want to say thank you, because you're right. The stair step is exactly it. And I could have convinced myself that not doing it then meant it wasn't meant for me, but not putting it away completely allowed this to happen, allowed it to bloom, allowed me to float on a cloud in this moment right here. And so get out of your head. I think that's the main thing. Get out of your head. Get out of the fact that it's supposed to be done. It's supposed to look like this. You bought the supplies, so you need to do it this season, this year, this everything, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. 2020, that was exactly that. We didn't know what it was going to bring. And so you ride through it and you feel through it. And then you have this knowing, this feeling, this vibration, this urge, this sensation, the ping or the draw, or a heart desire that's really pulling you forward. So even if it doesn't make sense, why am I not able to do this right now? I thought that this was a passion. I thought this is where I needed to be. Trusting that it will all unfold in the correct time. So follow the vibration, follow the inner knowing, listen. And when I say that, not just with ears, for me, it's hands. Sometimes it's just, I had talked about the sun coming through the forest, and that's what will slow me down at times, is, just really feeling the sun on my face and taking that moment of stillness and stopping and catching my breath and shifting my energy. When I do those things and I grant myself permission to step out of the box and step off the treadmill, I will receive so much more in the process. And so that's divine guidance for me.
Yeah. And if I may add, do you, when you get those pings and those urges, do you act on it immediately?
I bask in it. So I bask. So even if I say it's the sun on my face, I bask on it. I feel it. I'm aware of it so that I can really hone that emotion in. So if a breadcrumb pops up, and it might be small and minimal, like picking up my teacup, I know that's me. I know that's a path I need to follow. So if it's the sun on my face as I'm walking through the forest, I want to feel that energy so that when it shows up again in something small, I know, okay, what's the message behind it?
Gotcha.
You're doing too much. You're giving too much. You need to slow down. Take a hot bath tonight. This is time for self-care. And when I do the hot bath, that ping from the warm teacup, that would be the time when I'm getting the waves of information and the waves of creativity and the energy to push forward and to take the next step.
Gotcha.
Integrate, elevate.
And so first and foremost, get out of your head and
get out of your head and get out of your way.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And then allow it to come from a cup of tea and not need to explain that to somebody else. Really just feel it. Because I think a lot of times we want to tell, and how's that going to sound and how's it going to be received or perceived from others? It's a message to you and through you. And so instead of trying to justify it, explain it, break it down, allow the feeling to be a feeling, allow the vibration to be a vibration. Don't push the message. Know that the message will come, and it might come in the bath and not in the cup of tea, but it's all part of like trusting it and trusting the process. And so the teacup led me to warmth, and the warmth led me to the bath, and the bath might lead me to journal by the fire, but it's literally following that sensation. And then in the art of journaling, I figured out, hey, I need to transition, and my soul spirit is pushing me and urging me to listen to that vibration and then follow wherever it might lead.
Perfect. Any how may our listeners connect with you? Do you have a website, or do you have email, or how would you like them to connect with you?
KyanneKerbel.com.
Okay.
And then business is Embrace Self Wellness. And so that's Facebook and Instagram. That's all me, is Embracing Self Wellness.
Embracing Self Wellness. All right. I will add those links for people to connect with you. So thank you so much. And for those who are interested in diving more into listening to their own divine guidance, I have a free guide and an e-course that you're welcome to check out as well. So thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. Thank you, Kyanne, for sharing your story and your heart and your passion, and all of you with all of us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay.